bit of a who's who of world leaders going on at the moment. And it is interesting geopolitically to note who's there and who isn't.
Right. I mean, leaders will be arriving here at the venue in the next hour or so. And security, as you can see behind me, is pretty tight. The main hall has been completely deserted as we expect leaders perhaps to walk right behind us. And what we know about this opening ceremony of the World Leaders Summit is that we'll see opening remarks from the COP28 President Sultan Al Jaber alongside UN Climate Chief Simon Steele, but also the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. Quite a strong showing from Gulf states and other leaders from the Middle East. Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia will be the first leader to make an opening speech here, followed by Al-Sisi of Egypt, the King of Jordan, and also Sheikh Zayed of the UAE. Strong European presence as well. You'll see Charles Michel from the European Council, Ursula von der Leyen from the European Commission, both of them taking to the podium separately to make a speech. And as you were saying, President Emmanuel Macron also in Dubai, arriving anytime soon, along with his Spanish counterpart, Pedro Sanchez, who will be making a speech as well. That's for who's attending. But as you were mentioning, also a list of notable attendees missing from this conference. The U.S. and China, two of the world's biggest polluters, will be represented by their special climate envoys, John Kerry and Xie Zhenhua, as Joe Biden and Xi Jinping will not be traveling, even though the White House has confirmed that U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris will be attending and making a speech tomorrow, Saturday, here in Dubai. Of course, Pope Francis was supposed to be attending COP28. He had to cancel his trip because he is ill with lung inflammation. But all in all, still more than 160 countries represented here for the World Leaders Summit.
Well, just looking at the intensity of the heat behind you and watching King Charles walking as well, it's not a surprise that the Pope decided not to go to this one. I want to talk about a couple of things. First of all, the loss and damage fund you talked about. I think there's something like $400 million so far put into that part. Step back and look at Pakistan, the floods in 2022. There was around $22 billion worth of damage. So some might say the money could have essentially fall out the back pocket of the US. It's not that much that's gone in. What else could we expect in the next few days, particularly while world leaders are there, to be fruitful from this?
Right. I mean, so far, as you were saying, $420 million have been pledged since that announcement last night of the loss and damage fund becoming operational. The UN still has said that those commitments were unprecedented, and they are expecting more countries to come forward during the next 2 days, during the World Leaders Summit, with more pledges. But again, according to developing nations, they would need closer to $400 billion every single year in order to really address the costs of the climate crisis. So we could see more pledges, and we will see more pledges over the next 2 days as leaders really are, standing under the spotlight, and they will use this opportunity to make more pledges. But other topics that we will see on the agenda, of course, will be the global stocktake, the first review of how far we have come in terms of battling climate change, how much we still have to go. And we are hearing that potentially we could get a draft of that final decision, because the next 10 days will be about drafting the political response to that stocktake. Now, the difficulty is that countries have very different positions as how exactly we should be responding to that stocktake. For example, developed nations, they really want to see something more forward-looking and looking at what else needs to be done. They want to see developing nations, emerging economies also step up their ambition. Developing countries, on the other hand, they see the global stocktake more of a moment of accountability. They want to see a clear review of what developed nations have achieved so far, but more precisely, where exactly have they failed and how can they correct course on that issue? So again, I think that we are going to be seeing potentially a draft of that global stocktake, and we'll have to, look at it very precisely and begin analyzing where countries stand on that issue.
Just as we were talking, we're watching Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan arriving, looking quite stern as he approaches. We're also getting images right now, live images of the French President Emmanuel Macron talking to Sultan Al Jaber, greeting him, the host. He is the head of the state oil company of the UAE. He's about to talk to Antonio Guterres as well, who's made another warning about the state of the planet, saying this year is going to be the warmest year on record. There's smiles at the moment between them. And also worth saying, Valerie, that Emmanuel Macron is likely, well, we've lost Valerie for the moment, but I should say Emmanuel Macron saying that this summit he will also talk to the Israeli president who is there about the situation in Gaza. So these live images going on right now.